Hey everybody, this is Brett, and I am here today doing my own independent video on double shots. I want to thank Dylan for allowing me to go ahead and do this. This is a weekend full of updates, a lot of stuff to talk about. First, we're going to talk about the controversy in college football. And when I say controversy, we're going to talk about Florida State, a team that was 13-0, and why they deserved to be in there more than Alabama does. And so, and let's go ahead and start with this. First and foremost, it's nothing against Alabama. I'm sure Alabama fans are happy. Yeah, they did. They come out and they beat Georgia. That's true. I'll take that 100%. However, the way that how they did everything with it, Florida State got ripped off. They got ripped off because of their quarterback and other issues, saying the performance of everything is, really, they think it would be affected. What is the point in playing college football, winning your games, going out there with somebody else, rather than the team's main quarterback or wide receiver, defensive back, etc., and going out there showing that they can win these games? There's really no point in it. And it's nothing really, if you're going to take all that away, and yeah, I understand they beat the number one team in the league. However, it's a disgrace to football. Alabama does deserve to be in there some sort of capacity. I don't disagree. I think they should be either the number 5 or the 6th spot. They kicked Georgia out of that spot. Florida State is in there somewhere within the first 4, though, I think as well. I think that's only fair. Texas goes in there because they did beat Alabama this past year. So I do expect that 100%, but unfortunately, I don't make the rules. I don't commission and decide that, but whoever thought of this is the reason why, the game is not any fun anymore, because you're putting this team in here. Sure, you could say Alabama deserves it, but they really deserve it in the capacity to make it into the college playoff prediction of either the 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed? Absolutely not. I'm really upset about that. Florida State really deserved that. I think they're gypped off of it. Next off, we're going to go into NFL football. Lots of things this past week. Number one, we saw Jalen Hurts lose this past week. I'm going to sound off on Eagles fans a little bit on this, simply because I don't like how the sky for them is falling. You've only lost 2 games this year. 2 games. I'm a firm believer that a team has to lose at least 3 games at minimum per season to show what they have wrong there. Right now in the NFC, I'm going to say the scariest team that's out there right now is the team that they played against. You're looking at if Brock Purdy was healthy during that game, would that have changed the outcome of how the NFC Championship went last year? It might have. However, we got to move on from that. Seeing how they played, it was wonderful. Seeing San Francisco be able to utilize this, there's a lot of kinks that show Philadelphia needs to work on. Now we're going to sound off on the play which led to an ejection of the head of security for Philadelphia and led to an ejection from the San Francisco teammate as well too. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. First and foremost, to be fair, both were in the wrong. Their head of security was in the wrong, and the player was in the wrong. Number one, the player should have had better respect than to try to clearly, obviously, show what was going towards and hitting or touching the lip of the Philadelphia Eagles head of security. However, if you do look at it, he's taunting the guy too for a reaction. So they're both in the wrong for there. They're both in that. Their head of security should not have been down on the field at that time. I understand he's trying to, support his player, the team that he's pretty much overall security for. However, there was no disturbance of thing that needed to be out there. There was no reason for him to point his finger towards anybody, any direction. That was uncalled for. That's probably what led up to a lot of emotion of that. That was a high-stakes game. However, Philadelphia fans, I'm quite disappointed that you guys decide to leave your team. The guy that made you to the Super Bowl last year, they only lost their second game of the season, and you guys acted like the sky was falling. This was the end of the world. This weekend coming up, they have a chance to prove themselves against the Dallas Cowboys, which I do think the Eagles will beat the Dallas Cowboys. A reporter says, let's take Jalen Hurts out of this figure. He should be benched. No, I don't think you bench Jalen Hurts at all. I think that's a stupid comment to make, but what do I know? That being said, this is your week to prove that you are better than the Dallas Cowboys. You clearly own that division, and kind of going from there. So that's one of those takes of things that I really see. Between the 49ers, Eagles, I think we're going to see them sometime in the postseason, most likely playing against each other for that probably NFC championship again. So, I look for things to be a little bit different in that and going from there. I think, again, part of the thing is when you have that winning culture, you expect to win games. And, unfortunately, I think it's got to them to that. There's the heart and emotion you can see there, but to get upset clearly the way that they did, yeah, that was all phases of the game. There was a lot of trash talk that game as well, too, between both sides. So that was prior to the game. So Sirianni, has a lot to work on going from there. Same with their head of security. I don't like the actions. I don't like how the fans just up and left, really. What a way to support your team that made it to a Super Bowl last season. And what a way to support your team, guys. Stay out there. Cheer them on even if they lost. Who cares if they got... Yeah, this is probably one of their biggest blowouts that they've had in a long time. So cheer them on. They've won. They've practically won every game minus a couple here and there. So there you go. I'm really disappointed in that. Kansas City Chiefs and Packers. I'm going to tell you something right here, guys. I expect the Chiefs to win that division, but they have a very weak, atrocious division. Denver's finally starting to get back on page of things, so they're lucky Denver sits where they're at. San Diego Chargers sit down low. The Raiders are still sitting down there as well, too, and it looks like they're trying to fix those kinks out as well, too. I'm legitimately concerned about the play level of the offense of Patrick Mahomes. We're seeing that big regression. And, a lot of people say, oh, no, he has not experienced regression before. You're also in another year. You don't have Bellamy as your head or as your offensive coordinator this year. You have Nagy. He has regressed. To be fair, where's his utilizable line that's protecting him? Guys, he is getting sacked. He is getting torn apart out there. He is throwing balls nowhere. Now, while I am really disgusted about the officiating in this past game, clearly 3 PI, defensive pass interferences, that should have been called that weren't. And I'm not a referee. You can look at the rules of contact of the sport. However, did those 3 defensive pass interferences cost them the game? Absolutely not. Would it got them in position? Most likely, yes. Does it guarantee and solidify they're going to tie the game at the end of the game? Absolutely not. It does not until you get into that end zone. However, the level of game to protect Mahomes, you need to do that. You need to find some way to protect him better. This offensive line, they are rushing at all angles, and they are making him throw like a wild goose right now, guys. And, I love my Chiefs, but they also have to face the criticism, too, that things are not in order for them to show. We talk about them trying to become a dynasty, and unfortunately, there's things in there that really don't show that. Their defense has really carried them all year, and they are getting tired. When your defense is on the field more than your offense, it's becoming a problem. We're not seeing that zipness to everything, and teams have found out. If you can block Kelsey out of the equation, the Chiefs really don't have a true 1 or 2 wide receivers sitting out there. So you got to find some way to become more creative. Pacheco was ejected in this last game, correct? He was ejected. So let's see what happens there. The rushing game is where, but they need to step it up on offense, guys. I'm not seeing that. Right now, the best team in the AFC right now. Until it comes to playoffs, I'm going to give it again to Lamar Jackson. He does great in the regular season, and he is showing. I mean, they've got Odell Beckham Jr., too. Somebody that I think and don't get me wrong, you can say, oh, he's overpriced or overpaid, whatever. Look at what they're able to utilize with him. You have to have a number one or at least two wide receiver on your team, and the offensive line has to carry. I could say, Trevor Lawrence might be injured, ankle problem right now. We're going to see how that affects them. I'm not going to put the Jacksonville Jaguars as a true yet, just because they've shown inconsistencies. However, this last game was a thriller to the end of everything, so I will say that. If you look at the AFC, it's very weak this year. The AFC is very weak as compared to the NFC. Now, what I do like about this year for playoffs and everything, there's teams that you would never think that are still involved in this game, guys. There are teams legitimately who you would think. The Texans are still involved with it. The Bengals are still involved with it. The Browns are still involved with it, even though the losses. Even though nobody, minus, if you want to say somebody's really locked up everything, I would say Philadelphia, if they win this weekend, they've locked up their division. Most likely. However, nobody's locked and clinched as of right now, which is great. And it just shows how plagued it is this year. When you think one team's out, another team's in. So those are things you really take into utilization. The Detroit Lions, I love what they have going on out there. I really do. There's a lot of take to everything, this football season going from there. Frank Reich. He was finally fired this past week, the week before. Not this past weekend, but he was fired that Friday or whatever. It's good to see him do that. It's good to see him. I don't think he's the guy for he's too soft-spoken as a coach, and I just don't think he clicks with the players out there, and it's all about gelling, having that team on support, and I don't think he won that support from the beginning. Does it suck he's fired 2 years in a row, middle of the season? Absolutely. But, now this guy is getting paid an abundance of money, and he could really take 3 more years off if he really wanted to. So, it's kind of nice to have. Do I think Brandon Staley would be the next coach on the chop block? Probably, but I think it's going to be after the season that they wait to do anything on Brandon Staley, just because they're going to wait on that. They really are. There's going to be a lot of weight on that. Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love played great, played lights out this past week in Green Bay. Hats off to him. They got to win. Not, in any definition, they made it look really, really easy out there. And this is showing where the commitment level is. Is this going to be their guy out there? Let's talk about the New York Jets. Do you want to know their problem, guys? Do you want to know their problem? I don't believe it's a problem that's between QBs. I don't. I think it relates on their offensive coordinator. I think it relates. You're seeing the problem. Last year, Hackett was horrible at producing a scoring, driving Denver Broncos team. We're seeing that out of, and to be fair, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say that Peyton has played much better, but he has at least gotten that offensive drive, and that defense really has not been as bad as what it looks like. We're seeing out of these quarterbacks that have the potential. We have Boyle, we have Wilson. They're both not producing what they should be able to capably do. So do you take it as you have a problem with your QBs, or do you have a problem with the offensive coordinator? Your problem with points, putting them on the board, is your offensive coordinator. Does Nathaniel Hackett have to go? Probably. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be okay if Nathaniel Hackett goes after the season? Let's just say Aaron Rodgers does come in. What is he going to prove? Is he going to try to prove that Hackett deserves to be there, or Hackett should be gone? This should be rather interesting as it plays out. So those are some things that I'm going to that I want to bring up as well too. New Orleans Saints. How you guys enjoy Carr? You know, I had high praise for this guy. I was screaming, hallelujah! They found him a team, and look at it. This guy is still doing the same exact thing. He carried the Vegas syndrome with him to New Orleans. You can't make this up. The money that they are paying this guy is just so absorbent that, what can I say? Is he really worth the money that he is? Now, next thing, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas, you need to beat a good team. You have to beat a good team. You have a horrible schedule this year. You have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL this year. If you don't beat the Philadelphia Eagles, this means that you have not been able to beat teams that are better than you. You need to go out there and prove that. Dak Prescott, it's shining on you. Same thing with the Miami Dolphins. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. Look at their record against teams that are better than them. Zippo. They haven't been able to win. It's kind of one of those things. You gotta come out, you gotta hit hard, and you gotta show that you are capable of it. Nothing has been done to be seen. Minnesota, you're still in it. You're in it 100% of everything, and I'm really liking it 100% what I'm seeing out of them. Sorry if you hear the background music. I have my TV on, actually, and unfortunately, the wireless speaker came disconnected, so it went to the TV output. So Dylan went ahead and he changed that off. But right now, football, I think, is being played at its highest peak that we're seeing. What I'm liking about this season is there's still a lot of teams that are still involved, heavily involved, so you're going to see that push. But I expect it to really come into play within the next couple of weeks, seeing where these teams lock up and seeing what everything sits. Do I think the Chiefs, there's a lot of people saying, the Chiefs are going to get back to... I think, I don't see them being the team that they are this year. Do they have that? I think they need to take out the position of them talking about Swift. And, nothing against her or anything of that, but when my Facebook feed for the area shows up with 100 different love stories of how Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce met, it gets awful tiring, guys. I mean, at some point, we need to know this is football, not a love romantic story about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. If I wanted a love story about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, I would recommend Lifetime Movie Network or Hallmark Movies and Mysteries. Reach out and they produce a story, because that will probably be the next thing we hear about as well too, correct? I think that is playing a lot into the distraction list of the Chiefs as well too. So we could be anything of that. Now, my last and final segment I want to talk about, as I've been all over the place, is the officiating. It is horrible this year. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Now, I want to let you know a little secret about a lot of these officials. If you look up their backgrounds, most of them are lawyers. Lawyers, of all people. So, lawyers don't like to be wrong. They like to be right. So, of course, their calls are going to be correct. I expect, I think there should be a more rigorous testing. Replay is only so human to things. But there needs to be, with this instant replay, this challenge, there needs to be a better way. I think what the NFL needs to do, instead of them going and talking to somebody at NFL headquarters, I think there should be a couple extra people there at the game that they have a little better view of margin, that specifically just are there to really see what is going on at the game. That way they can give a quicker, better, faster response to utilization of these instant replays. Because you're even seeing on some of these instant replays that, where you can see the calls clearly there, but then it either gets reversed or it stays the same even though you can see it. So this is my take this week off of it. Look forward to Dylan. He is doing the predictions this week for what teams he thinks are going to win and what teams are going to lose. Thank you again for allowing me to do this video. Comment what you think is exciting, what you haven't seen. If you're disappointed about anything this year in football as compared to this last season, and kind of going from there. If I had to put a disappointment on anything, I'm actually kind of liking it. I'm liking seeing, these teams are still in it. The Bengals, without Joe Burrow, they're trying to find ways creatively to win. They played a lights-out game against Jacksonville. They got the W, and that's what counts at the end, getting that W. So I will see you in the next video.